Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapters 34 through 36.
We're at the end. What a time. But before that, previously on Wizard Team, Amari, Elsie, and Lara are summoned by Bane and then are confronted by Bane, Harlow, and Van Helsing about what they've been up to. Lara comes clean and betrays Amari and Elsie and telling them about the investigation and Amari not being able to move through the time freeze and all the stuff that she knows about what's been going on, except for the little thing about Dylan. She kept that to herself. But Amari and Elsie are now imprisoned in their room, and they're trying to figure out how to stop the time freeze by morning, when Amari is called to another Great Game challenge. So then she and Dylan end up in an abandoned underwater train, where they have to figure out how to get the victor's ring out of a wall of glass that's between them, while also trying to escape the Kraken. So Dylan, he kind of chickens out and he dips. So Amari gets the ring. And then she goes back to the bureau where Lara has called Elsie and is explaining how she's still on their side, and that the three of them... No, well, she doesn't have the old transporter she stole from her dad, but she stole another one. So if they can get to her room, then the three of them will break into the Supernatural World Congress and try to find the time stone that is freezing everything. So they get to Supernatural World Congress, and immediately there are agents there who grab Lara and Elsie, but Amari slips into the room and she's searching for the time stone. She finds out, gasp, Merlin has the time stone, and he's the one who made the time freeze happen. Amari takes it and things start moving, but then Merlin's like, nah, give it back. Takes it back, everything freezes. But then the scene has slightly changed because there was a little burst of time in that moment, and Amari turns and gets a new picture of what's happening. And that's where he left off. This is a harrowing cliffhanger. Very unfair.
Harrowing cliffhanger. I don't know about in your book, but in mine, wait, let me triple check. Because I was also reading it on, I've been reading on digital and on in my book. Digital and what else is it?
Audio?
Physical. Thank you.
Oh.
So, yeah, in mine, it's a podcast. Y'all can't see this. It's a harrowing cliffhanger, but the next, it's on the same page. Like it's
on the same page.
You literally just go like, turn your head.
I mean, that's what we were talking about last episode, where we literally, like, Porshèa was like, it's the Wraiths. Cause like, and even me, I was like, oh,
I'm like, I need to remember what
I couldn't remember. I was
here.
Like, no, I'm gonna read the next page. Like, you're
also,
not gonna leave me
I was
this. Sorry.
Obviously, we're finishing the book, so I just finished the book to do my notes and stuff. I don't know if it's like we've been trained as readers to kind of, especially with like mysteries, even though I know it's a series, like to think that it all wraps up like pretty in a bow. And so I think because I'd only read this book once, like when it first came out, before doing it again for Wizard Team, I thought that there was a much more satisfying ending. I thought that they got comeuppance. So imagine my shock.
No. That's so funny, because I remember reading it the first time and not expecting that. And like one part of it is that, but when we read it, I was still assuming it was a trilogy. But I do think that even knowing now that it's 5 books, like even if I had known them, I probably would have thought the same thing. But like second books in trilogies are famously like,
so it's sophomore syndrome,
disastrous.
Sophomore album syndrome. Yeah.
Well, no, not even that. That's not what I mean. I mean more in the sense of like for the character.
Yeah, but there's always like
not going to be like, you know what I mean? Like, what's it
Like a
called? Hunger or
cliffhanger.
Catching Fire ends with there is no District 11. You know what I mean? Or District
Yeah.
12, my bad. Like it's always something like they've been going through it the whole time, and then you think like finally maybe they'll win something, and then they don't.
They end up in a worse
So I was
spot.
like, no, Amari's definitely gonna suffer. It's infuriating, but I had a feeling it was gonna be that way. So
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I think because
it's still
the way
like
that we've been
upsetting.
talking about it in Wither Team has been very much on the, like, it's a mystery, um, and so even with mystery series, like, I figured and I don't know why, I, like, kinda forgot I think maybe I also, like, took in the it's 5 books instead of 3 thing while I was reading this and I don't know, but I just in my memory of it was like, "Oh, they solved this," and then something it's like, you solve, like, the one mystery that you've been working on, but it just, like, opens up a bigger,
Another
different
question or
mystery
something.
or, like, a bigger, like yeah, conspiracy, and so that's kind of where I think that I convinced myself it was, like, "Oh" I mean, we understand who the villain is now, and I knew that, but I don't know why I thought she got caught or
I
got
mean, that's the what's been so funny for us, like, for me, for
She
us
got caught,
recording
she
this
just
book
didn't get
has been, like, we all remembered who the, like, culprits were, but
Yeah,
we like, the how in the how of it was all
yeah.
hazy for all of us, we were just like, "We something happens," like, it is like, the villain's
yeah,
planning to go happens, it's all exposed. I remembered her power. I did not remember, um, like, what kept her power from being, like, used before this book
Mhm.
until, like, I read today and was like, "Oh, yeah, that was what it was." So I feel like there's, like I don't know, like, I feel like there's things that, like, I enjoy about being a like you're saying, like, being a reader. I think there's things about being a reader that, like, you kind of protect for yourself because it kind of protects the magic of it all. It's like, I'm not gonna, like, linger too hard on the hows of everything because especially if it's something that's like a series where you're gonna come back and reread it, there's stuff that you can, like, find in your reread that brings the magic back for you, like, the first time you read the book, and then it's nice to have that. So I feel like let's like I not that you're holding this on yourself, but I'm like, I don't feel like it's something to hold against ourselves because it's like, whatever. It's good to be able to read and still be like in a place of like, oh wow, like that happened. I know I read this before, but did I? Like what happened to my
Mhm.
brain? But I also
yeah,
think
no,
it's
I
fun.
enjoyed it, it was just, like,
Yeah.
funny for me to be like, I was real confident
Just completely
that it
misremembered.
was
Yeah.
For me,
so
I
I
was
didn't, like,
like, I'm a counter. Like I'm a video minute counter. I'm a
mhm,
song count. Like I'm like if I'm watching a TV show and I know this TV show is 25 minutes long and we're in minute 21 and there's still no resolution to the big conflict that's happening, then there's supposed to be a part 2 continued because what's
yeah,
happening? And
Mhm.
so that's how I am with books too. I'm it's funny because I think people think if you are a person who flips to the like see where the next chapter demarcation is, then you're automatically just trying to finish something quickly. But I'm like, I just like to know, like, how long is it going to take? Like, is this going to be something that's going to like be dragged on, or is this something that like I might get some resolution for in the next couple of pages? Like,
yeah,
what's
I
going
do
on
the
here?
same yeah, I'm the same kind of way, and so I think I don't know, it was just funny to me that it was like, I was just so confidently wrong. Like so it also, like, it's funny too because on the reread, it probably hit worse than it did the first read because I was like, "Wait, no,
You're like,
there's
"This
no
isn't what it was
justice."
supposed to be."
I didn't spend however many hours of this podcast dissecting all this out for. So I didn't leave the South Side for this. Like that's where you're just like,
Okay.
what?
Seriously. Okay, so all of that to say, the cliffhanger that makes you wait so long to move your eyes over the next page. Um, there are wraiths stuck in the time freeze with the Congress, um, holding weapons and basically attacking the Congress. And that is what Merlin was using the time stone for. Also, I wanted to say, because I wasn't on the last episode, um, the thing that triggers Amani or to Amani. The thing that triggers Amari to look um at Merlin for the time stone is Fiona being like, Fiona's ring and being like, oh yeah, we kept trophies. Just wanted to bring up again. It's so
Colonizer
awful.
behavior.
It's so bad. I mean, like, we'll get into Harlow a little bit more.
Behavior.
Like, yeah. But also, like, when we get to
behavior.
Harlow too, like when she shows up, there's definitely like I was definitely feeling like, okay, Merlin.
Yeah.
You might be the common denominator here, sir.
Yeah. I was also thinking about, okay, we'll get there because we're gonna get into like some good old fashioned villain splaining in this chapter. So Bane, like, and his wraith assistants come in after Amari has like, well, Merlin snatched the time stone back, the time freeze is back in place, and Amari has gone to the agents that were holding Elsie. Are they holding Laura too, or is she skating by? I couldn't.
Yeah, I think they're holding.
I think they both are in trouble. Yeah, all three of them. It's like, okay,
yeah,
you were spying on
but
them,
up until this point where they see what's happening, and then I think they're not really held anymore.
So Amari like walks calmly up to the agents, and everyone is staring at the time freeze now with this new information. And Bane is like, why are these kids not being arrested for trespassing? And Amari is like, what's up with these race attack in Congress, sir? We are not the ones who need to answer some questions right now. And so he denies what they're seeing, or he tries to deny it as if they're not, the wraiths are not visible right now. He's like, my wraiths are out searching for the culprit of the time.
Then whose race is
Then
these?
what's going on?
Right.
Whose men's are these?
Whose race are these anyway?
No one's buying it. So then Director Van Helsing detains Bane and the other non-frozen race. And then Harlow appears and tells the agents to release Bane, and they do. And then Director Van Helsing is like, hey, you answer to me, not her. And I have questions.
I just want to say my observation for this whole thing was like the wraith reveal, everyone looking around trying to figure out what was happening. And then Harlow walking in gave me Beyonce's countdown video when everyone is like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And then Harlow is Beyonce and comes in and is like, it's me. Like that's what this whole, because everyone's looking around like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? It's me.
If y'all didn't know, Cowboy Carter is out. So Beyonce is top of mind.
It doesn't matter because this whole situation was like everyone's looking around like
it gave me Welcome to Level 7, but I think that's what I always get when there's like a reveal. Is I get
somebody steps out. Yeah, from the dark corner.
I get Agent Coulson being like, "Sorry, it was just really dark in this corner. I couldn't." Harlow is like, "Please let me villain explain because my brilliance has been in the shadows for too long, and I'm very proud of what I've accomplished here." And I'm still gonna get away with it, so why not? And Amari is like, fine, girl, because while you villain explain, I'm gonna be thinking about a way to get myself and my girl out of this situation. So let's do it.
Well, I also like wanted to point out too, like, this is not a shout out to him because he should just be this way all the time. But Director Van Helsing very much was like, nah, we're getting Bane. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't waste time trying to like
figure out how to blame
Amari in that moment. Which again is not a like shout out. It's just a like.
But it's so funny that the evidence had to be right in front of his face in order for him to like have that come to like.
That's what I'm saying. Like he should have. And the thing is he probably would have figured it out sooner if he hadn't been trying to like make deals with them, right? Like it gotta be suspicious that they're calling out your agents from the thing. They don't want you to investigate. Like it doesn't make any sense. So again, not a shout out to him, but more of like it's immediately in his face and he but like he has no choice. He doesn't but to try to, you know what I mean? Like he's not in on their plan.
He does the
Right.
minimum
It's a minimum requirement, but it's
requirements.
also
It's
Yeah.
the
like he's
minimum
not in on their
requirement in a
plan to that
situation.
But
extent,
he could
right?
have
Like it's
he
not
could
like
have
he's trying
made
to cover
that.
for them. It's
Yeah.
more like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
for while they were in power, he was trying to take advantage of that, right?
He
But
took
at this
advantage of the
point, it's very clear
situation.
that's not really the case, at least at this moment.
I also do think though that like he could have made the calculation of like, oh, Bane is the baddie, but because I've already ingratiated myself with him, I'm gonna let him get away with it
Mhm.
and continue. You know what I mean? Like I have a better chance with him than I do with like Merlin or something. And so he could have been like, yeah, arrest these kids, you know? Like he could have done that, but he decided, again, bare minimum, but he decided not to. So Harlow begins to, or Harlow tells all of the agents to point their stun sticks at Amari. And so even Laura points her stun stick at Amari. And Amari realizes, oh, that's the vision
Mhm.
that me and Elsie saw in the looking glass because like Laura looks conflicted, doesn't want to be pointing her stun stick, but is being compelled. So
It's the number
Elsie,
one stunner, if you will.
yeah, so Elsie realizes that Harlow's ability is that she's able to control people and that she has basically been the shadow prime minister because she's been controlling Bane. Like Bane crawls over to Harlow and is
Mhm.
like, I'm so sorry, she figured it
But
out.
also
Um,
And she pats him on the head
wild.
like he's a
But I
yeah,
pet.
also
he's a
want to
pet,
point out too though,
but he's a
like
pet. But
it's not that
oh,
she
go ahead.
compelled Bane and then they did this. Like she was able to like they were working together. She persuaded
No,
him just on a
she
regular
persuaded
thing,
Bane.
and so, like, he
Yeah,
did the attack on Congress of his own
yeah,
volition, and then later she ended up compelling him, but
yeah,
so it's also, like, he's still it's not that he's doing all of this.
Merlin had to be incapacitated for her to be able to compel him
Yeah.
yeah.
the way that she
So
was
Merlin was
thereafter.
limiting her abilities, which so
Mhm.
she wasn't able to actually use her abilities, at least to their full extent. She's like she probably still is like
Well, she said that
supernaturally persuasive, but
said
she's
that that
not
was
able to
her,
make
like,
people.
gift before she got like, that was the power that had or
She was
the
persuasive
crystal
before, and
ball
then
made
her.
it so that she could control people. So it
Sorry,
was,
go ahead.
like, a talent that she had, and then
Yeah, but I'm thinking like she's like yeah, but I'm thinking it's like a she's very talented at persuading people, but I'm thinking like there is maybe still a little bit of I don't know, but because it says that Merlin limited her abilities, um, but then his control broke with the time freeze, which is hilarious because she's like that still worked out, like the time freeze still worked out for me, um, because her
right.
plan was to kill him, so and to like take over, like her and Bane's plan, um, and then Amari and Elsie are like, "Well, we're not immune." And so she explains that like high people with high levels of magic are immune to her abilities, and that's why she likes to stay in the background. That's why Bane is like the coup because if she comes up across someone like Amari, she's not going to be able to persuade them,
What's
and
going
they're going to
on,
be able to
right.
be like, "Hey, wait a second, what's going on here?" So she has to be
That's why
um
Merlin had control over her because his
exactly,
Mhm.
magical ability is greater than hers, and so
But
he
I
was
also
able
wanna,
to
like
tie that
yeah.
down.
But here's my question. Because what is Director Van Helsing's ability? Because he
yes,
is
he is, I
not
thought he was.
persuaded by her. So everything
Oh,
that
he's
he did
not in oh,
before
you mean up
this,
until I see what you're saying.
no, he's not.
Well, I think
Because
she
she's like, he's
no,
immune to her
no.
persuasion.
I don't think he's immune.
He is because look, he when she's
By the
like,
tent, by the tree, you and me, like by the tent. He she was talking to him and he was like, "What?" And then Amari broke it up. Remember during the Elite's
I
tent
don't think he's
situation?
immune.
I don't think he's completely immune from her.
maybe she has to be more focused on him because he says,
Because initially she's telling them
um,
to do stuff, and she's not holding them, right? So at first she's like, "Let go of Bane," and they let go of
She's
him.
also
no,
not
because he
Let
talking
like, it's
says,
she's not
she she
he
was talking to the
says,
agents that were
everybody,
directly
yeah.
holding Bane. She wasn't talking to all the agents in the
So
room at
those
that time.
initial
She was just
moments, which is
talking to
why it
those
takes
2
Amari and
agents
Elsie
that
so
were
long to
holding
figure out
Bane.
that that's what she's doing because she's only doing like small things and they're trying to figure out like why are they listening to her? And then when she says point
So
the
many
stun
people at a
sticks and
time.
everybody does it, then that's when they realize, oh, you're controlling everybody as opposed to just like these few people who are answering to you.
Oh, because Director Van Helsing's
Which
like,
my
how are
question
you
was, how
doing
do you not know
this?
what her power
And
is?
then she's like, it's my turn to talk now.
Like,
She's
Because it
that
was
old.
no, I
That
know that, but
ceremony
my thing
didn't
is like as a
happen like in
director,
the
yeah, I
written
think
and this is
record.
more
only
on like
Covered
a,
it
it's
up.
more not in the like, it's
you
his
should
fault, but more
know.
it gives me the same vibes as like them not knowing anything about the magicians.
It's
Bureau.
Where
on
it's
Merlin
like,
or something.
it
Yeah.
feels like Merlin should know, at least let the directors know what certain, if they have like highly, you know, they're what they're
Yeah.
classified as dangerous powers, that shouldn't be a mystery. It should be like, at least at that level. Nope,
Mhm.
not everyone needs to
Well
know,
You
but
have
at
known.
least at that level,
clearance.
like you
Yeah.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised.
But is she well known among the
Like
people
that's
who
what
have
I mean.
power
Like,
to
But again, this goes
be
back to
aware of?
the supernatural world just thinking that they're invincible, and
right.
Merlin's not immune to that, right? So he's probably at this point thinking, well, I got control over it. I don't need to like.
I wonder if
And not that he's like keeping it from people, but
That
like
it's
it's
be
just it never
necessary.
even crossed his
Yeah, and I mean,
mind
there's even
that
Yeah.
the
something would happen
like,
to him.
there's also the
And
again with like I
yeah,
kind of mentioned, like he's kind of, this is also
hubris.
kind of his fault, right? Because she gets that power and they immediately criminalize it. So they are
Mhm.
immediately like, no, that's on lockdown. We're not, you know what I mean? And as opposed to
Yeah.
like thinking about or thinking the best of her and what she could use that ability for, they're immediately,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's
But to
a
be fair to
scary,
them,
right.
her parental story is very sus. It's a very like she came to them on some F crap
But
already
again, she didn't
because
have
it's
that power
already
until she
sus.
came to them. Like until
And
like they, you know
how
what I
much
mean?
of
The crystal ball gave her that power. So even that,
Yeah.
it got amplified. It got
well, she was
amplified
saying
when
that
she
she was
had
persuasive because
something.
She was
it's just the
persuasive.
talent. It doesn't boost magical ability.
Yeah, like she would be like the captain of the debate team. She would be like undefeated in debate, and
But I'm
you
not
know,
okay,
That's
but
what
like
I'm
I'm not
trying to
saying
say.
that like
She's
whatever her
sus. I feel
abilities
like
were
there's so much we
before
don't
weren't
know.
like, or talent or
We
whatever
don't
wasn't
know.
strong. I'm just saying that like in the same way that they do with Amari, they immediately think the worst of her
she couldn't
as
make
opposed to
you.
thinking of other ways that that ability could be
Yeah.
Yeah,
applied. And so in that way, she's, whether she did some questionable stuff before or not, she's
Nurtured and
rising to
stuff.
their
Yeah.
expectation, right? Or lowering, either way, she's meeting that expectation,
yeah.
which then is just like
This
this
is something
cycle
that
of, instead of thinking of other
yeah,
things she could be doing, which then is also interesting in the way that she's
and
against
this is a note that I
magicians, right?
wrote
They're
when I
kind of dealing with the same prejudice. Yeah, not
I
that
mean,
they
people
don't
are
do it all the
hypocrites,
time, but
so
yeah. So this is a note that I wrote down when I got to this part 2, which is like the differences between her and Amari of like wanting to prove people wrong, but also like the um oh, I can't.
Mhm.
That's not even out yet. We be recording timey wimey. Anyway, but it's also like this argument for how people will recreate systems of oppression that they are oppressed by. In the fact that like so she says like people with high levels of magic can be immune to her powers, right? So then I had this like thought about like, is that why she is going after magicians? Like in addition to like that being what
Mhm.
got her and Bane in cahoots, and like Bane definitely wants to go after magicians, and so it's like, no skin off her back. Is that the thing? Like it doesn't hurt her to like give him and the Wraiths that, like, or to continue to against this like crusade against the unwanted. It doesn't hurt, and it
it works
helps.
in her
Like
favor.
it works in her favor, right? But also, is it also a fear that like that magicians would be immune, and so she also wants to keep that unwanted label on them because that's less people that can challenge her.
Like taking Merlin out is not enough because Merlin, like if someone else has the same abilities as Merlin, that still would put her in
Yeah,
that
so like
place.
someone like
So yeah,
Amari, who's 100% magic, is one immune to her, but also
could
Mhm.
possibly figure out how to hamper her from doing whatever she wants.
yeah, but like also doesn't, like we've already seen with like Dylan, like has the moral compass of we should treat people fairly, and like it's kind of like ingrained in who Amari is that she would be fighting against Harlow's control, just because she doesn't believe in like one person having control over people or being able to like decide in the same way that Merlin decided that Harlow could not have her ability, or that Amari couldn't practice her ability. You know what I mean? Like this, in the same way that those things were decided for them, and Amari was like, that doesn't seem right. There is going to be someone like Amari who cannot be persuaded and then cannot be compelled because they're immune to her power. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, Dylan might have been immune to her power, but could have been like persuaded through the argument the same way that she did with Bane that like this is the way to go, if she would have given him enough power and enough freedom to foul magic his until his heart's content, right? Like he would be like, fine, you do what you do, I'm doing what I'm doing, it doesn't affect me. Whereas someone like Amari is like, no, this is wrong, full stop. And so even if you give me a level of freedom, I'm still going to like push back against this because of like my morals and like how I see the world, right? So that was like the thing that I wrote a note about, just in terms of like you said, Bayana, like she's risen to or lowered to the expectations set for her by the moment that that power was revealed. Um, she's also
Mm-hmm.
replicating that, as opposed to being like, you know, I was unable to be able to choose my own path or whatever. Maybe I would have chosen a bad path, the path must foul, but I should have had the choice. And like this, and like society should have been set up in a way to hopefully lead me to make good decisions, but if I made the wrong ones, then like I own that and that's on me, type of thing.
I wanna know how her persuasion works because I think about other persuasive characters who I've seen in other media properties, and, like, if she says like, so, like, in The Boys, and y'all probably do not watch The Boys 'cause it's gratuitous, violence and, like, me like,
Absolutely
it's just a
not.
lot. But, like, one of the characters, she's a psychic, so it's not necessarily the same power, but however, she's, like, young when her power first manifests, as it always is, puberty, and she tells her younger brother to get lost, and the homeboy
Mhm.
actually literally gets lost, no one ever finds him again. So, like, does her persuasion work that way? Like, if she tells someone to, like, forget about it, like, forget what just happened, that she just manipulated them, will they actually forget? Does she
Mm.
have the ability to
It's
do
like
that too?
what level is it?
So, is part of what level is it? Because is she able to get the one up on like Bane? Like once everything happens, even if she's like she only can like limitedly like persuade the people who are in the same room as her or whatever. Like, do they forget about their interactions later because she tells them to forget about their interactions, and so they don't even know that they've helped her with her mission?
She does say that like there needs to be a level of like contact, because she's like, since her power is unlocked with the time freeze, she's been in frequent contact with Bane, to maintain control over him and to continue to like compel him to do what she needs. So I do think that there needs to be a level of like, there's like a time kind of limit, or if you once you
But
see
I don't know if
that.
there's a time limit if you tell someone right when you're like, "Forget about this," and they forget, and then you
Oh,
leave out the room.
yeah, no, I just mean like in terms of her, like if she said, um, "Go kill Merlin," then I think that that compulsion lasts as long as until that task is done. So it's not like, um, I don't think that she can give like really like
Yeah.
vague. You
Long
guys could,
term.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like long term things. You guys haven't read Emily Wilde, but in Emily Wilde,
I have
like,
read Emily Wilde, the first one,
oh,
not the second one, though,
right,
yet.
okay. So in the first one, there is like a faking, and Emily's able to like do little like side quest things that are not actively acting against his orders, but are counter enough to help other people come save her. Um, and so I think like with Harlow, it's kind of the same thing of like, you need to act or you feel compelled to like complete that task or whatever. But if the task is vague enough, then you probably will still be like working towards it. Oh, this is a good example. If I haven't finished it yet, Mind of My Mind, when like homegirl tells everyone to come to Forsyth, and they're able to still do like certain things, but they know that eventually they're going to end up at Forsyth, right? So they're like still
See,
doing
yeah,
the
I mean, I'm
the
curious what like how it'll expand in like the next books, because I feel like it's introduced in this chapter, but
mhm.
then we obviously don't get to it again because there's other stuff going on. So um because it feels to me
Yeah, there's
more
still a lot of
physical,
like
like I can
vagary.
tell you to do this thing and then you know what I mean, and then that's done. But there's like both of y'all are saying, like there's a lot of implications on like how strong she is and what the like we don't know what the parameters are other than that she can't control people of like a
Her
certain level of
range.
magic. Um but like what that persuasiveness like what that control looks like in its like totality is still up in the air.
Yeah.
I think the fun thing about persuasive characters in general across like fantasy and sci-fi or whatever is that they figure out different modes of what works for them. So sometimes they'll be like the explanation is pheromones. Like if they're in the same room with you, they put off pheromones, and that's the thing that allows them to like have power, compel you or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see like if there's like an actual like reasoning factor behind like how she's able to move, and like if that's what the team up is gonna have to like contend with, like because it's not just gonna be her as their primary villain going forward, and how much that's gonna, like, interrelate with all the
Yeah, I
other
hope when
stuff
this
they're
is
gonna have
all
to
over,
contend with,
Merlin steps down,
for the rest of the series.
I
because this is
also
what happens
want
when you've been in power for
to
700 years.
yeah, I was gonna say, I also want to, like, talk about the, um, similarities between this Merlin and the Merlin of Legendborn, where it's like, because Merlin made the, crystal ball
Mhm.
that they all use to unlock their power stuff, of, like, just not thinking this all the way through, because he has no control over it. Just basically, I think the spell is, like, take a strong trait and
Mhm.
push it towards magicality. Like whatever your like defining talent, strength is innately,
Mhm.
make it magic. And so he never thought, oh, someone who's persuasive will end up
She's
with the
so
power to
persuasive.
will end up with the power to control people. And oh my God, what are the implications of that, right? And like the Merlin and Legendborn obviously didn't think, you know, we're
Well,
tying this to the
I don't know
bloodline
that he would have
for
remorse over
however
that, though.
long.
I feel like he thought it through, he was just wrong.
I don't think that there's
Well,
remorse
we don't really
either.
know
I don't,
This Merlin.
but I don't think yeah, I don't think that either one of them, whether they thought it through or not, I don't think they cared or thought
The
too strongly about the implications and
and
the
I
repercussions
think probably
broadly.
because, like you were saying, it's like it's the control, right? Like Merlin and Legendborn has these other Merlins, right? So those that's the check and balance for whatever could happen. And in this case, this Merlin is still alive, so he's like, whatever, I'm powerful enough to
Mhm.
put a stop to whatever might be too
Whatever comes out of it.
like
Yeah.
yeah. Which again, like you said, like it's not a great plan.
So you guys think that when she tells everyone to put the stud sticks in, then that's when Director Van Helsing is also
Mhm.
compelled then to, so he is also
Yeah.
not,
But
She's also pointing to
it's
stick.
not as
yeah,
notable
okay.
because
I'll have to go back
it's
and
not as
reread it
notable
because I
because
was
Laura
literally
did it, so
like,
that's like the focus, but I think it's everybody, yeah.
Laura's.
He's always willing to point a stick at Amari. Like that's not a
Yeah.
big question.
I was just like stuck on him being like, how are you doing this?
Mm.
And I was like, how are you not compelled?
I think if you were right, we would
What is your
actively
thing?
I think if you were right, then BB Alston would have made a point to show that he was like shuddering and trying to not hold it. You know what I mean? Like we would see
Yeah.
him resisting. I think that would be a bigger plot point because it's like, oh crap, Van Helsing actually is not with it, you know. But I think that we should assume that he's actually part of this pointing the center stick.
Okay. Darn. Not darn in like the I want him to, but I just want to know, like, one, do we know his supernatural ability? And then also I just want to know like the levels of his, I don't think his depravity has like, the limit does not exist, but like,
Yeah, no, your question made me realize that we don't know what
it
his
would just make
supernatural ability is.
Yeah, this whole thing, even though apparently I was just reading it wrong, made me be like, wait, what is your thing? How powerful are you? So Harlow then also reveals that she forced director Horace to look into Maria's past, and that she knows about the League and has sent agents around to round up magicians. And then fortuitously, coincidentally, it's one of the like parts about fiction that I love / hate is like when the coincidences line up so perfectly that I'm like, that is, someone wrote this. Amari's ring starts to like burn. So it's not just warming up, it's like scorching her hand.
I just want to say, like, when this time I'm like, thank God. This is like the first time I've been glad that she's been summoned for the Great Game. Because, like, how is she going to get out of this one?
Yeah. But I also did love, because I was like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh no. And then I was like, wait, they're stun sticks. They're just going to like incapacitate and make them giggle. Like,
yeah,
it's not,
it's how they incapacitate them to then like put them
they don't
in
have guns
the
pointed
sightless
to their
death.
head. So like, they are in danger. Yeah. Yeah. And they were already like, you know, being watched and then like, you know, being imprisoned in their room, which is a nice imprisonment, a timeout, if you will. But this is like, they're about to go to the sightless depths, you know, like it is not, they are not in the clear by any means. Like it is still a dangerous thing. But for a minute I was reading when she's like like when I'm thinking about all these stun sticks pointing at them, I was like, oh, they about to open fire. We're about to have a Bonnie and Clyde type situation. And then I was like, wait.
I was like, Amari's about to like have a storm moment. She's about to storm these a-holes, right? With like some lightning strikes and stuff. But I was gonna say about her being saved by the Great Game. The timing not only of being saved by the Great Game, like being whisked out of it all, but also the timing of she just having learned that that Maria's brain has been like poked through, and now the magicians are being thinking like, okay, the timing of that and her being able to come to the Great Game with knowledge, like intel for the magicians, was like a good timing thing overall. Like it's like she has something she can serve to the cause. And not that it actually helps her any, but like it was like, okay, the timing is okay, it's on top of it right here.
Yeah, that's where I was like, oh, this is convenient, but in a great way. So then Amari throws herself into Elsie and then squeezes her ring and they disappear. So that's how this chapter ends, where it's literally like out of the frying pan into the fire, because we're the Great Game hasn't been
it literally only gives her a chance to escape. Like if she won and ended up going back, it's possible they would have moved on. You know what I mean? Like, oh, where did she go? They're looking like they could maybe get away. But again, like you said, it's into the fire. So like she has to deal with this first to potentially make it out on the other side. So both yay, but also hate this for you.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the independent bookstores.
With our bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/blacknerdscreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Oh
clever.
my goodness.
That's clever. Love B&C content? Want to see the tricks behind the treats? Every month we drop behind the scenes and bonus content on our Patreon. Baddies at any tier get access to notes, process videos, and podcast outtakes. Support us on Patreon at any tier by going to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate. All right, so chapter 35. So Amari and Elsie appear in a field of grass. Lara was left behind because Amari couldn't get both of them out at the same time. So she had to make a choice, and Elsie's her best friend and also is actually like in danger. Like Harlow makes it pretty clear that Amari and Elsie will be getting punished and like they will both face the same consequences. Whereas like Lara is not necessarily counted in that, even if she may get punished for helping them. So then Dylan appears across the field. Elsie hides. So the grass is tall enough for her to hide in it. And so then Dylan immediately has the flames. I think that's his favorite that's his favorite new ability.
Yeah,
He's like
it's so funny because we were talking about, oh no, separately, not on this podcast, we were talking about Cora and how she immediately goes
firebending.
to
Oh yeah.
firebending, even though she's a waterbender. I like, because we had just had that conversation when he like immediately was like fireballs. I was like, okay, Cora, calm down. Like,
Literally.
you have other magician
Powers.
like abilities.
The fire and then the shadows, but the shadows are the shadows are the second one. It's the second one. He's like fires first. So, but Amari is,
but it's only because he stole shadows.
But he stole the
kind of
fire
feels like
too.
a signature, like it feels like
because he's a technologist.
Yeah,
he stole both those powers.
Wasn't he using fire first book? Like, wasn't that like was it
he
stolen
was
or was it
also
that
an
he got past that
illusionist.
'cause
Like,
he was
I think
apprentice?
illusions was his
Yeah.
secondary thing, the way that weatherist is like Amari's
Yeah.
secondary thing. But the fire is not an
Yeah, that's true.
illusion.
Right, but is that not the Moreau thing that he got past?
You mean like when he took Moreau's magic?
When he took, well, yeah,
What did he
well,
get
that's
past
what
from
she's saying.
Moreau?
He stole. He
Yeah.
stole it.
Moreau was the first person he stole.
Even if he
magic
took it from Moreau, wait, I don't think that he says like where the fire comes from.
I thought it was. I don't know why my brain, like, I remember what happened first book.
No,
it just
he
in my brain
killed
is
that
a mental
dude.
passing. I was like, that's how y'all do this.
He
Y'all
murked
just-
him.
The mantle
like
was
Sith.
passed
It's
through
like the
murder.
Sith method. Yeah. I stand corrected. It is the Sith
This
way
is
indeed.
not
Okay.
Dylan's first life.
I know he's a murderer. I just, for the moment, my brain was just like, if Moreau is murdered, is it murder? You know, it's just one of those moments.
It's still murder. It's whether, morals with Moreau. Is it moral? Maybe.
Yeah, I
but
know,
is it murder?
but-
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so Amari is like standing, so she's kind of like also ready, right? This is their last challenge. They don't know where, they can't find the ring, so, or they don't, like, it's not in an easily visible place. So Amari's kind of like, either way, this is their final face off. So she's like, all right, ready. We gotta fight. But Cosmo shows up. Amari's like tries to warn him about the magicians being exposed, and Cosmo's like, I already know about that, because he doesn't know how to talk to children. And like, he spent all that time like so surprised that Amari didn't know anything, and then now all of a sudden he's like, oh, I already know. It's like, shut up, you're irritating. Anyway, dozens of magicians.
I feel like Cosmo, like, not only does he not know how to talk to children, but he doesn't care.
He
just like,
talks to them like
I'm
he
an
expects
adult.
them to be
We're here.
like
Let's go.
adults with fully. No, but I think he expects them to move like adults with like fully developed, like fully developed frontal cortex. Like but, and it's like, and not in the way that's like empowering, where you like give children like options or decisions, or you ask for their like you know, their
Choice.
feedback. You know what I mean? Like where you actually are trying to like
Input.
speak to them as a peer or like an equal. It's more like you should know this already. You should be able to do this. So it's like it's like weirdly dismissive while also like expecting them to be able to like do things at a level that they just wouldn't know how to do at that age without some kind of guidance. Like there's no guidance. It's just like you have to do this. So yeah. So but he's also like agitated because dozens of magicians have already been captured by agents. He's kind of like the great game's done. Let's just fight. Like you already know why I'm here. Like one of y'all needs to get these rings and the crown and the other one needs to get their magic took so that we can go to war. That's the plan.
Isn't Joanne the
It's canceled.
scammer who's like, it's over, it's over,
Literally.
it's done. Like
That's over.
it's canceled, it's done.
So Amari and Dylan get to fighting. Amari attacks like she is using her weather's powers. She's kind of finding that, it's easier for her to kind of like draw on her emotions. When she was practicing, it was a lot harder for her to do, but in the like heat of the moment, she's able to use those powers. However, she's still a little, well, like she's never gonna be ruthless, right? So she's just so she like knocks Dylan over in a gust of wind, and her immediate thought is like, oh snap, was that too much? And it's like, no, these people he's trying to murder you. Like Cosmo is talking about
Which is so
like it's, but she's still in that like, is this okay? Did I do too much?
caring
Really
about people is
is.
gonna be the end of Amari. I swear. Her caring about
I love
people
her
is
for
gonna
it.
be the
It's
thing that
already
takes
taking
her
her
out.
out. It's literally
You
taking her
know
out
this is a
right
battle
now.
to the death. But what kills me is because like in this chapter in her head, she's like making peace with the fact, like she like before this happened, she's like, anything I do now from now on is either gonna be the last thing I do, or
Yeah.
like it's like
It's like
she's
she
in it to win it.
knows
She's like, I have no other
she
choice.
knows
I
what
have to
has
be
to
in
be
it to win
done,
it.
but she's still who she is. So she's not gonna like it. She's still gonna feel like it's not even that she's easing up because she knocked him out, right? Like she did it, but then she's like, ooh, snap, my bad. Whereas Dylan is hopping up with his fireballs, like, nah, let's go. Oh, you're serious? Oh, let's go. Like he said, oh,
He's just
but
shaking
also
it
he's a
off.
little
He's
upset
like,
that she
all right,
knocks him out like
it's
that.
the
Like
challenge
he
today.
actually took it a
All
little
right.
personal. He was like, that's how it's gonna be?
Which is
Fine. And I'm like, sir, you
annoying.
were
Every
already
time
ready. You were
Dylan
already on 10.
Every time Dylan does something to her, he's like depending on her to be nice
He
back to
blames her
him.
for
And I'm
all this
like,
stuff, but like he's also still trying to
really?
hurt her. So
Yeah.
you gotta defend yourself. Anyway, they're fighting. At a certain point, like Amari is like kind of like Dylan has the upper hand. She got the shadows. She's like he might be choked. I don't know. She might be like not being able to breathe. Like she's losing at a certain point. But then her emotions are high. She remembers the Calamity of Skies spell that she saw in the Weatherist book, like way back. And this is it's funny because it's like it's almost the same as like the Magnophobia one, where she's like, I'm not gonna try that. And then in a certain moment, she's like, look, that's the one that popped in my head. I'm gonna have to see. Like who could tell?
That's the
She's like,
funniest
what do
thing
I
to
have
me
to
though. It's
lose?
like,
And I'm like, I mean, it said yourself, but I could see how in the context of you like, asphyxiating that may not matter, like on the scale, like what's worse, losing yourself or
Eminem
losing your
told her
life? I
that
don't
losing
know.
yourself was a good
Said in the
Eminem
context
told
of
her
you
that losing yourself is a good idea. Like losing yourself is like supposed to be the song to get your head in the game. So I feel like, does lose yourself actually mean that much? For me though, it's funny because it's like she's such a like good coded person that just one interaction with a foul magic spell is enough to stay in her brain. Like that's weird to me. That like you don't remember any other spells you flip
But
through.
I don't
It's the
remember if
foul
that one
magic,
was
but you're such
I
a good
don't
person. But
yeah.
that foul magic is calling you. it's got
I
it
don't remember if Calamity
I don't
Skies
think
is
that it's
foul magic. I
that
think it's just really
she's not good,
because
so
she's the same
the
thing
foul
happens
magic
in
sticks
the
with her. I
first
think
book.
that's what scares her the most, and so that's why it sticks with her. It's like she is like terrified. I personally, so what there's a thing about like ADHD and OCD and stuff like that where it like will lend to addiction, right? And then like there are some drunks in my family. And so I'm always like very, very, very worried about becoming addicted to something. Meanwhile, I do not have an addictive personality because I do not have like I don't have the memory or the long I can't even build habits, right? It's weird. I don't have an addictive personality in general. But so someone basically told me like the fact that you're always so worried about becoming addicted to something is why you probably won't be addicted to something because it's the first thing that pops in your mind. Like it's the first thing that like if someone's like, "Oh, take this thing." I'm like, "Is it addictive?" Like, you know what I mean? And so I think it's kind of like that with Amari is like she's so scared and so she's hyper vigilant about them so they stick with her because she wants to avoid them.
I don't know. I
That
don't
makes
think that
sense.
I don't know
I
if the
hear
Calamity
you.
of Skies has been like I don't think it was explicitly named as foul
Also, they're cool.
magic. I think it's just like not that it like I think that the way that it
I thought it was
affects
in the
her
back
shows
because it
how
was
like
named
how
foul
you lose
magic.
yourself and how you could like go into that, but it's not necessarily. It's literally just in the weather book, and it
I
says
feel like
no
it
magician. It
was
says included only for thoroughness. No magician has ever come back from summoning this weather magic, but it doesn't say that it's like she's not looking at the illusionist book that has it split between fair and foul magic. It's just a weatherist book that is just like here are the spells. Mm-mm.
it's the same book,
It's
is
a
it
different
not?
book
Well, yeah, the
than
weather
Madame
is book.
Violet's.
But the book no, the
That's
illusionist
Madame
book is the
Violet's
one that
book.
has the multiple
Yeah.
layers,
Yeah.
had it.
So this is
That
a
was the
different.
one
This
that
is
had
the
multiple
one Maria
layers.
gave her.
I don't she knows it's spell
But
magic
I
though,
think
because
that
it
it
was
was
I
like
didn't
because of the
but it was
I
like
don't
amounts
think it
that
is
you
Excel.
give
foul.
to
I
it.
think with weather,
It's not
it's like
necessarily like whether you're using it
and
for
that like negative
but also
emotions
the fair magic versus foul magic is like fair you're using it to like for the help like to help others versus foul you're using it for your own gain. And I don't think this one in particular is necessarily for both. I think it more has to do with like how powerful it is. And because it's feeding
context.
because weather feeds on your emotions, it like can amplify, you know what I mean? Either whether they're good or bad emotions or whatever, and that's how you lose yourself versus it being like, oh, I'm using it to like Amari reads that and thinks about Dylan, but I think more in the sense of losing yourself and like how desperate do you have to be to use a spell that you know has the potential to like change who you are or
Overtake
whatever.
you.
Um
Yeah.
and so now she's kind of seeing the desperation that you have to be in to do that.
I think it's funny how whenever she was confronted by Laura at the All Souls Festival, the first thing that popped up in her head was trying to use that foul spell on her. And as soon as she gets in a moment with Dylan, the first thing that pops in her head is this spell that they said no one comes back from. It's not supposed to be in there for in her brain space. And I'm like, she had the whole rest of the book that she flipped through, and the thing that pops up in her head that to remember to use, and it's instinctive, like it's an instinctive emotional use one. So I understand that as a thing, but I'm like, why
Pop in her
did
head.
nothing else
Yeah, I think it's
pinpoint
just
her
the desperation,
interest?
I
and
think
she
because those
thinks
are
she's
the
Yeah.
about
big
to die,
scary
so she's
ones.
like, "Look."
Yeah.
Also, you know, like Chekhov's gun, like he couldn't mention it and not use it on a plot level, but like on an actual. I
Yeah.
know what
I
you're
get
saying.
it. I know the writer side.
Yes,
But I'm like, in her characterization, I'm like, bro, like every time you're put
like
in a
back into a
place where you're
corner.
like, you're like, let me use
Hmm.
the yeah.
So she's like, no magician has come back from this spell, or no magician has come back from this spell where those magicians weren't me. And I'm like, you know what? Talk your shit. Do what you gotta do.
This
You
is your
know?
moment. This is your moment to own that crap. Own, be who you are. You are the Moonstone badge carrying dangerous magician that you
Um,
are.
and
Own it.
so like Dylan is like so she does the spell, it like brings in this storm and all that, you know, lightning and thunder. Dylan is terrified. So again, I think it's like a consistent thing about him, and I think it shows why he takes to foul magic, or vice versa, because he really does only care about himself. Like in the last challenge, he dipped because he was like, I'm not trying to die. You know what I mean? Like so he's very much we have yet to see him be afraid for someone else, is what I'll say. So, but in this, again, because the Calamity of Skies is feeding on her emotions, she finds herself, like, she's kind of realizing how easy it is to lose yourself, because again, like,
In the music, the moment you want it.
Portia
Sorry,
did it
that
too.
is Portia's fault. That
Eminem told her that it was okay to lose herself because everybody uses it to pump themselves up for before they play a game. It's
That's not what I used to pump myself up before I played a game. So
when you watch the sports that you watch, do they
no,
not
for
be
some
having that
reason
playing
they
in
all
the
be listening
stadium?
to DaBaby, and I don't listen to DaBaby enough to understand it, but I need it to
You don't
stop.
need to. You don't need to understand it. I'm like, not that you don't need to understand it. You don't need to. You don't need to
No, like F
investigate.
DaBaby for
Is
what
my
he did to
point. That's
Meg.
what I said.
Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I know. I'm
No.
not going to. Believe me, I'm not going to. But all of these women who I believe are smarter than this would be like, DaBaby. I'd be like,
Yikes.
no, stop it.
Come
That is
on.
anti-Megan Thee
I'm
Stallion
saying.
agenda, and I won't have it.
I'm like,
I
Cobra
won't have
exist.
it.
It was the Cobra, right? No. What was the one that
The
she
one that
no
she-
Cobra? Is that the one she dropped that was like, fuck all y'all?
Hiss.
No, the diss track.
Hiss.
That's not Cobra. Hiss. Snake.
Yeah, they're
Megan the serpent. When Megan the serpent, listen to all that stuff, you know?
Megan the serpent. The serpent.
The
So yeah, so she's having this moment where she's kind of like being pulled into it, and is, literally, like, genuinely considering like killing Dylan. She's at this point kind of like, why shouldn't I? Right? Like, after all of this, I got the power.
And legit,
I should do it.
This is a mindset she needed to have. She needed this 3 challenges ago when Homeboy took the freaking ring off her finger. Like, she should have had
her head wasn't in the game. Her head might be too far. I don't know that her head is necessarily in the game
There's
right
something
now.
about having,
like, it is and it's not. Like, it's a different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's somewhere in the middle. She's not. She hasn't quite found.
There's something about someone snatching something straight out your hand that would put me on
Vengeance.
you about to die mode. Like, you.
vengeance is mine.
So then Elsie,
I want to see some punishment.
So Elsie pulls her back. So she exposes herself because, again, she's been hidden this whole time. But she like jumps up and is like, "No, Amari, remember who you are. All of that. I am
Simba.
show them who you all of that."
When I tell you that I don't think you can even say those words, Bayana, without me hearing The Lion King.
That's
because of how much you talk about The Lion King too.
It's my jam. I'm always.
I know you do.
I'm always
so
quoting
it's
it.
like,
I mean for you to think about The Lion King.
And I think you've remembered who you are. I think you've remembered who you are to me so much that like your voice is just as like triggering as Mufasa's voice.
Not on Earl Jones.
She didn't say remember who you. She just read it, and my brain was like
Lion King.
Yeah, Mufasa.
Like Bayana's voice is just as iconic for this line as the actor with the deep resonant voice.
If I had
that movie are both 30 years old this year. That's crazy. Yeah, that's very crazy. Anyway, so a lot of this chapter had me thinking a lot about like Amari and Dylan as foils, and like obviously they have been from jump, but I think BB Alston does a really good job of like kind of focusing in on that in this chapter. And so one, like her using that spell, thinking about how Dylan was feeling, like kind of what made him succumb to that like darkness or losing himself and being willing to do that, but then also this moment of Elsie pulling her back, which she's done a couple times. The first time she did it, we were upset because it was with Lara and she should have let Amari be petty.
I hate it so funny. Now.
The reason I don't hate it,
I currently hate it,
is because it shows that
I currently hate it because Elsie says, "You're gonna regret this later," and I'm like, y'all, you're gonna regret
No,
this later.
Amari is
If
not
you
going to
don't
regret
think, like,
not
I
killing
hope
Dylan.
Elsie regrets.
But my
pulling
point,
No,
a
because
move
then
on her
Elsie
jacket.
gets to Elsie because of
that-
this.
Elsie said, you're going to regret this. If you do this, you're going to regret this. Pulling Amari back right now is a regretful maneuver. It is not good for the good of all
Yeah,
right
it is.
now. For Amari
I
to get
mean,
pulled
yes,
back from.
and
No, it's not.
It's good for Quentin.
yeah, it's definitely good for Quentin.
Quentin might have been. There might have been other ways.
So you want Amari to become a murderer?
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing. You've been listening to
Actually,
Cowboy Carter
would she
too
have actually?
much.
Would she actually? It doesn't
Jolene.
matter. I was
It's not
murderous before
Jolene.
Cowboy Carter. I will be
Porshèa's ready
murderous
for the-
after. I'm just saying, we don't know that the last step would have, like, she's Amari no matter
Oh my
what.
gosh.
Let's see how this
Okay,
would have
but my
worked
point
out.
though is back
Let's
to the
see it.
foils before we got to Porshèa being murderous, is that also though it shows like Amari has people, right? Like she has support. She has people who will remind her of who she is and like what she stands for, and who also will support her regardless of what she's doing. Dylan has nobody, right? So that's how he's able to sink into that and turn to foul magic, because he doesn't have anyone who's like supporting him on either side. By the time he and Amari become friends, he's already, not that he's like too far gone, but he's kind of already there, because the only kind of support or like influence that he has is from Moreau. So yeah, it just made me think of that, going from like Amari seeing Dylan's side and how he got here and how easy it could be for her to get there, and it being like her family, her friends who are keeping her from tumbling into that.
I want to say two things.
Yeah.
Quickly. Is it the peace sign? So one, when I just like casually suggested that we electrocute Dylan's brain, Porshèa acted like I was
both
the
of y'all
worst.
wildin'.
So there's that.
Oh my gosh.
The idea of electrocuting someone's brain for their own good was where I drew the line. We're not going to couch it in.
Porshèa said, just
It's
do
a
it just to do
tool.
it.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Just do it. If you're going to do it, just do it. Let's not play with
This is
them for
wild.
their own good. No.
Secondly, I do think that like because we're talking about like how easy it is to lose yourself to found magic and stuff like that. I do think that whole thought process that Amari goes through while she's doing the calamity spell proves that it's not foul magic, because I don't think that she would be able to be so lucid, I guess. Like, I think she understands like how easy it is to lose yourself in magic, how easy it is to like lose yourself in emotions. I think it's a really great like allegory, metaphor. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in school. But one of them things where one is like whatever, of like mental health in general, like falling into depressions or falling into like, or like the way that like mania can come up on you if you're not. Basically, my whole thing about being self-aware. If you need to stay self-aware, like you need to like ground your.
She was self-aware when she found magic Lara.
This time she's not.
Yeah, but you can be self-aware
or not. Like it's, you can like this time it's being taken. You know what I mean? Like she's not fully in control.
Yeah, but you can be self-aware and make the wrong choice or make a bad choice.
Yeah.
But you.
So I'm just saying that found magic doesn't necessarily take away choice. It like she still had the ability to.
But I think she was more naive about that when she did it with Lara than she was in this moment, because she had that experience with Lara. But I just basically my thought process is like, I don't know that Elsie is solely responsible for bringing her back to herself, but I think it speeds up the process, like having that like external voice also kind of parroting what she's kind of grappling with internally, like spurs her more quickly on. And so I just think that it's really interesting what you were saying about how Dylan only has like Moreau, because like Dylan's external voice would have spurred him on in the opposite direction, I believe. And like the fact that Cosmo is still technically there and isn't saying anything, which is like goes to show that like Cosmo's not the external voice that Amari needs, because Cosmo was over here on Team Porshèa, like let's just see what happens.
He doesn't care. He's equal opportunity. He wants.
But no, he wasn't, because he changes the balance on his. He changes, but he actually gets involved.
After she,
I was gonna say, I think he was waiting to see what she would do in this moment, and then after that made this. Not that he wasn't willing to step in, but I think that he was like, if she can do this, then cool, she could do it. She can get the thing. Like, I think that's more what he was. This was his final like.
He was down to see if she would play the game the way he thinks the game should be played. I don't think, but I don't like. Don't draw.
Oh no, I don't think it's like you.
My thing is sometimes you gotta. Yes, sometimes you gotta smack people in the face to tell them to get off your back. And I feel like Dylan needs to smack in the face that this freaking storm would have brought him.
The storm would have killed him.
Currently being smacked in the face.
It don't matter. Don't F with
sometimes
in
you
particular.
Can die.
You can smack
if the face smack any other
magician in the face that you want to. Just don't F with Amari.
I think he realizes that
she's not that girl.
I think at this point
he takes the magic from her in the next couple of
because he knows that he
still thinks Amari is that girl.
That she is stronger than him.
Okay.
It does not matter. He comes to Amari with the energy of,
we gotta move on.
I can hit you. You're gonna be kind to me. I expect you to be kind to me every single time. That's how he treats Amari. I think Amari needs to put him in his place.
But the thing is
I'm not.
They have been fighting this whole time.
Boom, he won't be
like it's not like anymore. You know what I mean? Like she's definitely got her licks in. And
when did she actually actively hit him in the face? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when she got the most that she got out of that.
No, but I'm just talking about even in this fight.
And now,
I'm talking about this fight. Like it didn't start off. They didn't start fighting.
Currently, she's hitting him in the face.
I'm saying even in this fight in particular, they didn't start fighting, and Dylan immediately like overtook her. Like she was holding her own, and then at a certain point, because Dylan.
I'm not saying I'm saying he needs to get like the smack in the face. I mean is,
but I also think that
that's Dylan the only thing that would get Dylan there.
But I don't think so. Like I also think
because
but I think that
it's to near kill him. It's to take his magic.
But I think that
to take his magic
show of what she's doing is in some ways that right. Like there are some people who are beyond a smack in the face. First of all, like sometimes that's all they need. I don't think that's not all Dylan needs at this point. Like that's, which I think we should keep going.
I'm saying for Amari, but to stop.
But I'm saying Amari. I don't think the smack in the face is going to make him stop trying Amari. Like I don't think there's really anything that can make him stop trying Amari because of the way that they've been positioned against each other. Like the only way is for her to kill him, like, or what she tries to do in this situation. Or what she tries to do in this situation, which is once she like comes back into like her, herself or whatever. And again, I will say too, like her using that Calamity of Sky spell and like getting that perspective of like what could have happened to Dylan is what then prompts her to use the Dreamcatcher spell. Where she's like pulling out these memories and she's trying to figure out or like find the spot where it was like his point of no return, which was when he was in the Silas depths, which is interesting to me that it's not like you see she takes out other memories, like he's like chilling with Maria, one where he's like frustrated because Maria's not like is basically ghosting him, and there might have been one more in there, I can't remember, but Yeah, Moreau. So she's like taking these like painful moments and like memories out, which I think is interesting because I think it's interesting in the sense that like he would know or does know that she's taking those memories. Like it's not, you remember, because that's like the caveat of this spell is that like they know that you've messed with their head or whatever. So I'm curious what that feels like to like have those memories taken from you, know they're taken, and like I don't know.
I feel like it would be interesting because he knows that she's taking them to help
Right.
soothe hurt.
And he's not like it does work. Like his eyes go back to its regular color. He smiles at her, like they hug. Like, so it's not like it does definitely feels like he's happy for it, but I'm curious, I guess more long term, if Cosmo hadn't decided to be who he was, like what the side effects of that would be, like long term, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, Cosmo is a hater, so he uses Dispel, which the fact that
Ooh,
Dispel is
Amy.
such a like easy, it's like the counter for everything.
Where was Elsie then? Like, why couldn't Elsie have bossed up
She's
on
not
Cosmo and
that.
tackled him in the
She's
knees?
not that
That would
girl.
have been funny. But that would have been funny. Even
It
like
definitely would be
where's
funny.
Elsie's boomerang? Like where's her
She
super
doesn't have enough
super amped up
context, I think, is the
boomerang you're supposed
problem.
to just throw
Like,
out or something? Because
but she doesn't
she
have enough
has all the
context. She doesn't know who
gadgets. She
Cosmo
has
is because
all
Amari
the
hasn't really been
gadgets
able
though.
to.
She doesn't have them
That
on
too.
her.
Like she needs a tool
like
belt.
she's Elsie. Have them built into your sleeves.
She said,
Like,
where is your suit? Where is
super
your
suit?
super suit? You need the Tony Stark.
Where is your super suit? They left the bureau to go to the World Congress. You didn't
She
strap
used
something
all
on
her
real
stuff
quick?
to
Like, where's it
cause
at?
that distraction. But yeah, no, I also just don't think that because even like Amari and Dylan don't expect Cosmo to interfere. And also Elsie only has so much context because Amari hasn't been able to like tell her about this. I think that if she had,
I get what you're saying.
I know,
I'm
no,
just
I
like,
get
where is the
it. I'm
gadgetry?
just
That would have
saying
been a
like
good old funny time.
I also don't think she's not like neither of them are that quick thinking. I feel like they'll get there. I think they're learning, but I don't think they're that like try.
They're learning
Yeah.
by like trial and error rather
Mm-hmm.
than like being thought, like being
Yeah.
theoretical first and figuring it out. Yeah.
So so Cosmo uses Dispel. The memories are returning to Dylan, but before they do, he whispers something, like under his breath. Amari kind of sees it but doesn't know what he says. The memories come back. Cosmo holds Elsie hostage. So that's the other thing is even though his memories are back, like Amari still has the upper hand if Cosmo would have like stayed his ass where it was supposed to be. But instead he takes Elsie hostage and is like, give Dylan the rings.
It's also like Amari was hugging this boy. So like her proximity to him, like to actually like defend
Mm-hmm.
herself is not her
But also I
range is
just want to
not
point
good
out
right
that
now.
Cosmo is a grown ass
Mm.
man. It's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
I
think that's
know, but I'm just
very.
I mean,
like
we've been saying this
it's
the whole
it's the
book.
moment where I felt it the strongest, you know?
Once again.
It was the moment where it really just like
It's like, why are you tied up in this 13-year-old's drama? But then like you're the one who
just
set up
be
the drama
better.
in the first place. Like it's a mess. Yeah.
It's so funny because like I feel like with Cosmo, and we've talked about it a lot, of just like him wanting to be, he's like Harlow's other half. You know, you were talking about how like Amari and Dylan are set up as like not two sides of the same coin. Really? Kinda?
Foils.
I don't know. What?
Foils.
Foils?
They're each
Yeah.
other's foils. Yeah.
I don't think that Cosmo is Harlow's foil, though he might be. He could be.
He
We'll
could
see.
be,
There's 5 books,
possibly.
but like he's definitely got like he is the Harlow of the magicians.
Mm,
Like, or he
yeah.
wants to be, but he doesn't have the like compelling power, but he's very persuasive and he wants to be like the guy behind the curtain. And so it's just a very interesting thing of, again, like, and I hope when I was reading this, I was like, I hope that we get a little bit more of like why he needs one of the born magicians to take the mantle right now. Because every time I'm like, you could have not and continue to be the like
Steward.
the guy. The
I think
steward,
he
yeah,
has
and
this
like
like
made some
I think he
decisions.
hides behind tradition and like the Yeah, and like the pageantry of it
Process
all,
and
which is
protocol.
interesting
Mhm.
because then of course obviously in this moment he completely like disregards it, but that also still kind of tracks, right? Like, and you know,
Mhm.
he was an apprentice to Vladimir, so like it's not like yeah, the League of Magicians are not all bad, but their processes, and especially him whose like whole job is to uphold that stuff, is still from one of the Knight brothers, who was not better than Moreau in like the sense of morals.
It's like the police. Like, the police originated as the, like, follow-up to, like,
Mhm.
slave patrols,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they have not changed since. So when you're founded on something really crappy from the beginning, and that's your guidelines are to stay within that same kind of guidelines, then you're
And
gonna
it's
keep
the same with like the
perpetuating
bureau
some
too.
messed
And
up
part
stuff.
of it is like also I
It
know we
doesn't matter
don't
who
know
comes in
for
there.
sure how old Cosmo is, but I feel like he was at least 7. I feel like he was around during the war, if I remember correctly. Or I've at least assumed that. And so like
Why are
they're
these
all
men
but
so
that's what I'm
old?
saying.
How old
The
My
is the
bureau is 700
God.
bureau?
because the
Like, was
bureau
the
was
bureau
Why
formed.
are we living this long?
the
The
bureau
bureau was
predates the war?
created like when the
After the
war
war?
was like kind of because of the war, if that makes sense. Like it was the this is how we make sure this doesn't happen again type thing. But it's like I think that's also the problem is a lot of these people are old as hell, and it's also why that war still feels so um yeah, because a lot of them were
Fresh
around
to
at that
them.
time. But then it also means that like y'all are not giving I mean shit, it's true to life, true to American politics as well, where these people are not passing on the torch and letting somebody else make decisions.
Until they
Literally,
actually literally pass
Yeah.
they're
on,
like,
and they
no,
have
I'm
no
gonna
other
stay in
choice.
power for as long as I can. Literally,
Until my last breath.
literally until then. So it just also feels more extreme because again, it's been multiple centuries. Like
700 years.
it's like ugh. So Amari, of course, does not have it hesitate. Like she immediately gives those rings over because one thing about her, she does not play about Elsie. So Amari puts on Dylan puts on the rings, and so then all of Amari's magic is sucked away except for one drop, which I think is why she doesn't die. Um, yeah, so she's like she can kind of feel a spark of magic, but nothing like how it was before. Um, Even still, Amari is trying to convince Dylan not to go to war and to choose like good. But again, which is again,
Trying to save the
she
world
was
with
close.
hugs.
She was very close. But it's
Can't.
definitely too late now. Like
Nope.
that ship has sailed. Um but again, it's like I think it's like the kind of final moment of for this chapter of like showing them as those like foils of each other. Um and showing how that doesn't quite resolve itself, or it does, just not in the way that she hoped. Um, so then Dylan throws, he has more power now, so he has a wave of fire that he shoots at Amari and Elsie. Amari can't now that the great game is over. Amari can't use that ring to teleport back. And they're definitely
She
right.
also ain't got no power, so she
Yep.
can't deflect nothing, and Dylan
Yep.
knows that. Dylan knows this is a kill shot. Like, every shot Dylan's ever given her is a kill shot. I can't. I just
Yeah. But then Elsie throws herself in front of Amari, and then that's kind of the last thing. Amari falls. Elsie is in front of the flame, and then that's how that chapter ends. Another cliffhanger, but again, we're just gonna keep reading.
it's the final chapter and the final episode
Even
of
still, if
this
I was reading it by
reading,
myself, like
so
there's no way I would leave it there.
here we
Like,
go.
there's one more chapter.
You literally
Like,
just
Yeah.
kept
no,
I literally just kept reading whenever I read it. I was like,
keep
I'm not even
going.
gonna take a note right here. I'm just
Keep
gonna keep
going.
reading until I'm tired of reading. Yeah. Okay, so it's morphing time because instead of the fire killing Elsie and Amari where they stood, yay, Elsie is
I love
finally
to
on
see it.
I
dragon
love how
time.
you're so mad at Elsie, you can't even get hype about this.
I can't believe it.
I can't
It's so tight.
dragons.
And I like
I
the way
hate
it
it.
does it where,
Come
like, she
on,
gets wings
Porshèa.
first to the point where, like, they're so big that you can't even see her, and then she,
She can
like,
cover the
grows into a
yeah.
dragon, like, ugh, love it.
Yeah, sure.
She's the best.
Yeah,
Elsie's doing the
Mhm.
great
thing.
skills.
Porshèa, come
She
She has
that was her
great
great bravery
skills. They
moment. She
ripple
just
over her
sacrificed
skin.
herself for her
She's
best friend
big and
and
large.
turned into a dragon. Oh my gosh.
Okay, yeah. So now we have to deal with a murderer on the run with
Yes, but
Amari's powers. But yay,
okay.
I'm a dragon.
You gotta
Let
it's
her
fine.
feel her feelings, because
I'm like, you are also maybe forgetting the demographic for these books.
Porshèa is so upset there was no murder.
If everyone no, you every time I get if oh my gosh, no, I need y'all to know this. Anyone who's in my orbit, if we're ever in a situation that I tell you every time I interact with someone they're trying to murder me, and you're like, no, but like, you don't need to become a murderer to get past this person who wants to murder you every time on site every time. And then you literally keep me from murdering them, only for them to try to murder me once again.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
gonna be having fighting words because I told you this person was a murderer who wants to murder me, and yet every time I get the opportunity to finally murder them back, here you come with some moral superiority. Get out of my face.
Well, we know that you wouldn't be listening to us after that. You're not Amari. You'd like, I would have been like, Porshèa, you're better than this, and you'd have been like, fuck you. You can get this next. Like, we know now. We know it wouldn't work on you.
Someone tried to murder me, and I'm supposed to turn the other cheek. Please. Ugh. So infuriating. So whatever. Elsie's the dragon. Amari's like, oh my gosh, she's a dragon. Because the girl is a full grown, like
Right.
size of like possibly
She didn't just
the size of small.
yeah, that's what it sounds like. And she didn't
like
just
kinda
breathe fire
dragon.
this time. Last time it was like a little bit bravery until she breathed fire.
Nah,
Now she's
The scales and
and
everything
full
came
grown
out.
too,
Like
which I think
she's
is interesting
full.
because
There's
she's
no
like
human skin to
this
be
little like
seen.
she's still a kid, so I think it's interesting that she doesn't turn into like a teenage dragon or like a
like a
yeah.
teenage dragon.
She's like, nah, I'm full grown.
It's
Exactly.
like Jake Long,
Yep.
the American dragon. Yeah. So cool. She unleashes a river of fire that scorches the entire clearing, and Dylan is like, I don't have the answers, Sway, even with all my new power, because he's gonna need a minute to orientate to the magic that he just stole out of Amari, which he completely needs. But great, sure. So he teleports away. And Elsie, who is like full in dragon brain, is just like, I'm gonna fly. So she takes off. Amari yells after her, no go.
That
Girl's a
part is
dragon.
so funny to me
Can't be
that she
touched.
just was like, I'm
Can't
out.
be talked to. Is out of here.
Like, girl, where are you going?
It's like, bye.
But also I could see it being like
But I don't think she's not.
Gotta blast. Gotta blast.
She's not really Elsie
yeah,
at that
I think
moment.
of it because
Like,
it's
she
she's
is
not
dragon.
like
I need Dragon Elsie to have the same energy that I've been saying this whole time. I hope her dragon personality
well, she
starts
did
coming
try
out
to
of
kill
her more,
Dylan and Dylan
she's
did.
more
So she
likely
did
to
do
set stuff
it.
on
She
fire.
breathed fire at her. But also yeah.
But as the
I don't know
dragon,
if she
I need her
will.
to adopt
But I will
that
say
energy
though, like I
in her
do
regular
think too,
life.
like her leaving,
I
it's
need her
such
to.
a like the first time I read it, I was like, girl, what are you doing? But also it's
Where are you
like you were
going?
saying, like it is a were dragon. She's not just like a dragon who shapeshifts. So it's probably different mind. It's also her
Yeah.
first time doing it. So I'm sure it's a lot of like what's the word?
So I was gonna say
Yeah.
from my
Orientation.
from my deep reading into shapeshifters and wares, because this happens a lot in Mercy Thompson. The werewolves, if you stay a wolf too long, you will lose your humanity. And the same way, like they're forced to shift.
That is also
Yeah,
true.
and so that also happened in a werebear. Did I tell y'all how I accidentally read a werebear story? This werebear story that I read, if she stayed bare too long, she would lose. Like they're kind of like two separate souls living in one, and they learn how to like coexist, but like there's like the human and the dragon. So I don't think that Elsie is not available
Right.
to take your call, Amari.
She's not here right now.
She's not here. We need a name for Elsie's dragon too. So we know.
Gotta think on it.
Yeah. So after Elsie's out, Dylan's dipped. Cosmo comes up to Amari, this sucker, and puts a hand on her shoulder,
way.
which is like, I'm just so disgusted. Everything here disgusts me. And she flinches away from him, and he's like, "Oh, I am sorry, you know." And Amari's like, "Harlow has a bureau, Dylan has the league. There's gonna be a war, and it's all your fault." And he's like, "The war has already begun, child. All I did was give our side a fighting chance." And Amari is like, "Dylan is out of control. You're gonna regret choosing him." And Cosmo says, "But at least I'll be able to live to regret it." And if that ain't some messed up logic,
First of all,
like, is he gonna live? First of all, what does he know about being able to live that we don't know?
I mean, I feel like he's done his calculations, and he said, this is where the math. I'm gonna take my chances.
He's sounding like Doctor Strange, who was like, there was the one shot, one time, in the war between the magicians and the rest of the universe. This is it.
That's slow.
This is that moment. This is the end game.
We're in the end game now. Ugh.
Except we're not, because we got 3 more books.
And Amari's disgusted. Yeah. Amari's disgusted, and he says that she has every right to be angry, but your part in this is done. Give me your hand and I'll send you home. And she's like, "You know what? I'm exhausted and home sounds real nice right now. So I'm going to take this stupid hand. You can take this stupid ring." He takes it off of her hand. And she surmises it was all for nothing. And everything that she did, none of it mattered. And if that, again, is not a reason to regret holding back your firepower. I don't think that's what
she regrets.
Yeah.
I think it is a moment to regret holding back on.
I think she's more upset.
What else?
No, I'm saying I don't think that's what her regret is.
She was in the middle of doing what
she did the thing. It's really Cosmo who messed it up.
She was still winning, but she was taking away. She was about to win the great game and save Dylan's soul.
That's why you incapacitate the sucker. What I'm arguing for when I say murder, but like I said like a second ago, like incapacitate the a-hole. Like do a Fire Lord Sozin. She's Aang. She takes his power away. A-hole's out of here. That's what I'm saying. Like just get him out of here. He make him no longer. But I think that
she again is not thinking. She was not.
She hasn't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I don't think it exists in her world.
But but I'm saying I don't think because like Cosmo stepping in was a shock. Like she's not playing chess. So for that, in her brain, she's like, I can do this, Dylan. And I won't have to take his magic. Mm-hmm. I still win the game, and I can prevent the war and, like Robyn said, like save Dylan's soul. But she's not counting on Cosmo to interfere, which again, it's for good or really for bad. It's not really for good. But I'm just saying that like she's still.
She could have stormed him into submission and pulled a Fire Lord Sozin on freaking Dylan.
You keep saying Sozin, and I'm like, Sozin,
but she didn't. So let's move on.
Dylan,
no. I'm saying but you said he could have committed. This is not the same. It sound like you're saying Amari could have committed a Fire Lord Sozin, but I'm saying you're saying that she could have done an Aang to Ozai.
On to Dylan. Dylan is the
that's why I was just clarifying for the audience. I was just like she's not herself pulling a Sozin. That's what I'm saying.
I'm like, she is Aang. She's seen the final scene.
Bayana said, Porshèa is passionate right now, but she's not actually
she doesn't mean that. She don't mean what she says.
She don't mean it. She gonna calm down, and she gonna realize where her words got twisted.
I get it, but also. So Amari returns back to a quiet home. She first thing she does is look in the mirror and she's a mess. It's like she's got her hair is a mess, her uniform, it has burn marks, she has grass stains. She's like, I am a full mess. And as soon as she starts walking through her apartment, she notices that Quentin's bed has been put into his bedroom. So like Harlow came through with her crappy promise to like actually get him out of there and not have medical supervision anymore, magical medical supervision anymore. So she decides to keep him company by pulling a chair from the dining room and pulling it into his room. She bumps into his bed, which makes him move, which she finds strange, but she like sit there, contemplates, and ends up taking what Robyn has advocated for many a time, which is a sad nap.
And look what happened. She wake up.
But before she has her sad nap, sorry, I skipped over. Before her sad nap, as she's contemplating things, she noticed the news report, which is she sees that people have gone missing. She interprets this as like Harlow being on her magician hunt because the first person that she notices that is gone missing is the Bollywood actress that she met, Priya. So she's assuming that is related to Harlow on her hunt. We don't know. This is the end of the book, so we don't have any verification of this yet. But she also can't linger on this with too much thought because the Bureau is also on fire. So that's a thing. Initially, when I read this, I thought that was Elsie's dragon brain taking over, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I'm like, "Okay, the dragon is active." Like
it was just Dylan again.
Let's do it
because that's his favorite. You got new power, and you said fire.
But I'm just.
Although I don't know if Dylan actually did it. It could have been a different.
I thought that Elfie burned.
Oh yeah, no.
I thought but she loves the institution. She doesn't have a problem with the institution, like to the extent
and
that
they
like,
weren't close.
Amari possibly,
and I also think that like they weren't. It's not like they were right
her.
outside the Bureau for that to like catch fire. You know what I mean? It was like, why would? Because she couldn't just be like, "Oh, I'm off to the Bureau and burn it down." Like that's not really. That's what I was gonna say. I don't know that it was Dylan.
This is like speculation. We need to have speculation. Like I don't know what you speculate here, but my speculations are: one, I don't know for sure that all the magician disappearances should be tied to Harlow because Homegirl just had a moment. We'll get to Harlow. Like I said, Harlow later. But Harlow just had her moment, and it's weird to me. Like, sure, she might want to take out her first main targets. But it's weird to me that that would be her first step is to, after she gets found out, is to do that. I don't know.
I mean, she said that she already had people sent out to find, and Cosmo did say that there were already some who were missing.
There were already
so
people
I think it was already
gone.
In the works. I think it was already
some
in the works
people might be missing because they heard about someone else.
Right, they could have
went going in hiding
I'm going to go.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know all the missing people exactly. The Sasquatch.
The
Sasquatch.
Yeah, the Sasquatch. They said I'm picking up your offer for a layer.
I do think it's interesting that like. I guess it's different if Priya was not picked up by agents and she's underground. I think she might have been picked up by agents. So that like I didn't think of it like she's got a family. Like it's like the article talks about like, her daughter is the one that's like she hasn't returned, and it's just like damn, we are just
and they're all like high profile people.
Yeah.
So it's also like very noticeable that they are missing because they're like famous or influential or whatever.
We also get a reminder, like I don't know if the person, people are listening in, people who like reading along with us, remember earlier on in this season and like in this book where Amari is going to school and there's this random watcher guy in the like convenience store who is like he's just like a regular person who's trying their best to see like the magician. So like that comes back, we get the call back to that way here in the last chapter, because the watchers are like is the person that's getting interviewed on the TV station. Like I don't know if it's the same watcher, it's just a watcher is being interviewed on TV station and he's on conspiracy theory. We knew there was something weird, blah 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 blah. Like we're here and we're not gonna keep the blinders on us. Like that's his whole vibe.
And they cut him off. They're like, No, but even the news people, they're like, "Oh, that's enough of that.
But Amari's brain has to cut off too, because Amari's like, this is
This
a
is too
lot of
much."
stuff. I'm still processing. I can't. And she sad naps. She just conks into a sad nap on right on the bed by Quentin.
Yeah, I'm like, I will say, like, I am really like excited for the fact that we have like 3 more books because of that tidbit too, right? Like that was a small thing that's introduced, like you said, it was introduced like at maybe the first chapter. And then we spend all the rest of the time in the bureau, so it's not like something that comes back. But I'm curious, like, even if the war itself is like thwarted, like I'm curious, like, if are they gonna have to deal with exposure, you know what I mean, into the like known world and all that kind of stuff. I just like that it kind of opens it up for more chaos to ensue.
Calamity.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. I am curious about what this is going to, how this is all going to unfold, but I also am just like, I have anxiety. I don't know. I just want it to be. I want like the next book to open up and we're like, this is where the people are. This is where we at. Okay, war started, or you know what I mean. I just want like, I like when the mystery is solved and then we get a new mystery and then it's solved.
You like a locked room. You like a tight.
That's why Law and Order is one of my favorites. You know, episodic.
I like ambiguity. I live for ambiguity until the ambiguity bites me.
But I could also see, because I think I would argue that this is still like episodic in a way. Like it doesn't, like in a way, all of this, everything is resolved, right? Like the stuff that's introduced in the beginning, it's not in Amari's favor, but it is resolved. Yeah. And so I could see, like in the same way, it's like, okay, here's the specific thing we're looking to do. And it's like, okay, we'll resolve that. But then there's still these like loose threads or other things, like for the Watchers, for example, being introduced for the next situation. Like obviously, like I don't know what he's gonna do or whatever, but
the plan is,
yeah, but it does kind of, I think that this one at least still follows that formula to an extent.
To live in like 2030 something where we know the full series run and like come back and hear this and be like, why did we, that was like, oh crap, oh well, we were off on that one, you know, like that would be so funny when the final 3 books are all out and like we can really come back and be like, what,
right, like what we thought would happen versus
what actually happened,
how things go.
Actually, yeah. But these threads are very clearly threads that have to be tapped on. Like the Watcher thing has to get tapped on. The war has to get tapped on. Dylan being a murderous schemer has to get tapped on. Cosmo being
a murderous schemer / though, like his
redemption.
I mean, whether or not he's going to be redeemed is still like a question, and I think it would be interesting either way. Although redeemed is not really the word, I think, but like whether he has an arc where yeah, like curious if it ends up going into just like, you know, I think either way it goes will be interesting. But I'm
not invested in Dylan, to be honest. I'm invested in like,
I am, but only in the sense of like his parallels. I don't know,
there's dynamics.
You know what I mean?
I'm invested in like the magicians, like what is that push and pull gonna look like with that, like their power struggle under all this like uncertainty, like that never really goes well. So I'm like, yeah, there's just a lot.
A lot, yeah. But we should keep going before we get too deep into
that's possibly why Amari's sad nap is so deep, because they're just girl, like she's 13, she can't even process, and we're whole 30 somethings. Well, you're almost like, you'll be 30 something in like 12 hours,
right?
But, like,
by the time this comes out, she's a 30 something. Keep it.
I'll be 30.
She's
I'll be
a full 30 something. Yeah. But like it's so funny because it's like we're sitting over here like, this is a lot. There's so much over here. There's something over there. Like I don't even know. She sad naps. She wakes up, and who's there? It's Jaden, and he's there with nothing but love for her, and he gives her a hug so big he lifts her up off her feet and spins her around. then he also shares with her the good news that Elsie does not like. As far as we know, which again, if she's the one who set the fires in the bureau, that's hilarious to me. But as far as we know, Elsie is not the fire setter, the arsonist. She actually ended up on their roof of their building, which is super cute. That she like the places she felt safe after her dragon form was on like Amari's rooftop. That's super cute to me. So because she rounded off, she kind of hulked out of her clothes, so she ends up in like some random like overalls she found in like a thing. So Jaden had come to Amari's apartment, not thinking that Amari was there, just to find some clothes to give to Elsie. Which is like, you couldn't give her some of your clothes, like bro, like the gender.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's also
On
size.
this.
And also, we have to
I
remember, does
still
Jaden have
mean-
that much?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it's just funny to
Yeah.
me. It was funny to me that he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna. She ain't gonna have my clothes. We're gonna go to Amari's closet." It was funny to me.
Also, Amari,
The
not
fact that you could
Amari,
just get in.
Elsie's glasses.
Yeah,
I feel
we're
like
gonna
he
get-
probably
yeah.
knows what like
So
where he
then-
probably has a spare key or knows where it is or whatever. But also,
Yeah.
Elsie
Who
lost her
knows where to find his
glasses.
keys. But
Which-
also he's like in the bureau. He might have one of them gadgets from Elsie somewhere.
Right, that's
like,
true.
He might have
Opener.
like a
Pick the lock.
screwdriver.
But I
screwdriver.
do think I was thinking a lot about your brother, Bayana, and like
Mhm.
Ami a little bit too. I was lucky enough, I think, that by the time I had to get glasses, or by the time we found out that I needed glasses, I was old enough to like keep track of them.
Ami's actually been really good at that, which is like interesting. The glasses she has now are kind of fragile though, so like she's had to go get them like adjusted a couple times. But I'm always, because of growing up with my brother, he always broke, lost, whatever. Like he half the time growing up, and he's like I think the most blind of not of us all, but like you know what I mean. Like in our family, he definitely does. Like he had to get surgery when he was like 5, so it's been bad for a very long time. So because he always had them, like I've been like I'm like so impressed with Ami about it, even though it's like, you know, not really a big feat, but the number of times that he was just walking around,
I mean, it is a big feat, not just about like
tape or
not just about like keeping track of them, but like, you know, especially when you're a kid, you're playing, you don't think always to take your glasses off. They get broken a lot. They get, mine still as a 30-something gets scratched so much that a lot of times it'll be like, I think I'm at that point now with these ones.
You have glass lenses? Like you don't have plastic lenses? You have glass lenses?
The plastic ones will get scratched as well.
Mine just like it takes a lot.
It takes more, but they still get scratched.
But it still happens.
Yeah, and like so even like
I mean, Ami's last
for me, like I will fall asleep with them on, and that's I think how they get scratched too. Or
my biggest struggle with falling asleep has been I had some really cute designer glasses, and they were not built for tough. So when I laid on them, they just like the actual arm came all the way off, and I was like, oh
yeah.
But
yeah,
like
Ami's now are like they're more like that. I don't think they're designer, but they're like very
fragile.
They're fragile. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I also like mine will fall off my face. So like they don't break in the same way as like, you know, I'm not rough housing, but I'll fall or I'll whip around, or I have a dog, you know what I mean? She will spot a possum, glasses go left, I go right. Anyway, so the point is that it's lucky. Well, we're hopeful that her parents will actually be excited about the fact that she's transformed, and that they are privileged in a way, because the glasses budget is about to,
it just went up.
Skyrocket.
Yesterday's price.
It's not today's price. Could you imagine?
It's not today's price.
We talked about like,
well, then who all can clock that she's a dragon though? Because like depending on if she was sighted flying, the only people who actually saw her were Cosmo, Dylan, and Amari, and which one of them is going to tell the authorities?
No, but I'm saying like her parents.
No, not authorities. Yeah. I mean, also if they weren't on the run,
not about her glasses, like the amount of like, oh hey,
Mom, the amount of glasses like backup she's.
I turned into a dragon, and my glasses. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna be like, can we look into LASIK? Is that an option? Does LASIK work under a dragon?
a subscription,
I mean, especially now that she's a dragon,
Yeah.
a
yeah.
monthly
Especially now that she's a
subscription of
dragon, it's like
glasses.
F
Yeah, we just
prescriptions.
'cause
Yeah.
the
She's gonna need that LASIK for real though, because that's like, how else would she be able to transform regularly without like
she's
that's
gonna have to be like,
impossible.
Maybe
"I'm
she
gonna set
can
these down." I think
maybe she
about
can
the
wear, like,
Hulk
a
and,
little
like, his, like,
pouch.
clothing budget, you know what I mean? Like, no one talks about
Yeah.
the Hulk's clothing budget, but it's like,
Elsie has that whiteboard budget. She's gonna have to
reallocate,
readjust her
Mhm.
reallocate them funds, girly, in your budget.
'cause that was the only thing I was just thinking about
Yeah.
is
No,
But
yeah,
I feel like
when
that
they
her
were like,
budget is
"Oh,
gonna
you
have to
lost your
include like
glasses?" I was
lockers
like,
around
yeah.
"Damn."
the world, because it's like how else is she gonna be able to like
Well,
keep
Also,
track?
like, where
I
were
also
they?
wonder though, now that she officially can change, if like now that she's tapped that in, if now she can change at will. And
Mhm.
so then maybe she's able to just be like, "Here, Amari, hold these."
I
And
mean,
then
she's a genius inventor, so I'm assuming that she's gonna figure out a, like, nanobody type of, like,
she they like get bigger. She has like
yeah, or
dragon
they
with
just, like, go
glasses.
into, like, a pocket of space or, like, she puts a spell on
Yeah.
them, so, like, when she changes, all of a sudden, Amari's minding her own business and glasses drop in her lap, and she's like, "Oh, guess Elsie is"
Okay.
I think it'd be funny if she invented like
a
oh
locator spell.
like she's a dragon. So how far she can fly, like distancing, like how her distance and like how quickly she can move. I'm interested in this change of circumstances for her and like what that means.
Mhm.
So is Amari and Jaden, because Homegirl is like laid out whenever they see her. I guess she like found she had like enough wherewithal to put on like the overalls and conked out on the roof. So they bring her down. When she finally comes to, she's like, I can't see. Um, and they all kind of like have a moment, like they're like talking, and then like Amari thanks Elsie for putting her life on the line for her, and they just like um Elsie's blinking back tears and says, I just knew I didn't want you to get hurt. You're my best friend and I love you. And then Amari says, I love you too. They have a big hug. And then Jaden wipes his eyes and he's like, that's cool. Going through something like that, y'all are more than friends. Y'all are sisters now. So Jaden is
He's
basically,
so moved.
yeah, but he's basically, what's his face? Oh crap, I see his face and I hate him. DJ Khaled. He's actually DJ Khaled. He's like, it's no longer Coachella. This
It's
is
Beachella.
Familia. This
Oh,
is
oh, oh, can I unveil my, name?
this is
Can I unveil my
Familia.
name?
Your what?
Elsmari. My name. I found one. I got
Oh,
it.
your tugboat name,
Yeah, my tugboat
Elsmari.
name is Elsmari.
They're adorable.
It's no longer
So it's very
Coachella,
Familia.
it's Beachella.
It's
It's no longer
Beachella.
Amari, it's Elsmari.
I'm not that I'm gonna give Jaden this man's attributes, but now I'm gonna see if he fits my hype man energy for the duration of this like
You always
group.
need a good hype man.
You always do. And so I love that Jaden is like big old softy, and because whenever Amari asks him like, why are you crying? And he's like, nah, it's allergies. They've been kicking in at the weirdest times. Anyway.
He's like, how it
Anyway.
works. Y'all cutting up onions. We're like, come
it's
on.
season.
Didn't nobody tell you to start cutting onions in here?
Come on. And I don't be playing with no crying like that. This is allergies, girl. What you talking about? So what happens? So so Amari takes a moment. Now that she's freed from the shackle of the Great Game Ring, she can tell them what exactly happened. So she debriefs them on all of that. They're shocked, amazed, awed, confused. What? Then Amari's like, and that's why everything sucks. The world is over. It is what it is, and I'm the worst. And as she's like airing out that sentiment, whose voice pops up? It's Quentin. And Quentin says, who says you need magic to be special, Chicken Little? And that's how that man announces to the world that he is no longer in a coma.
Calling her Chicken Little.
Love that.
That's such brother energy.
A brother thing.
But also in like reassuring her, like right when she feels like everything is lost.
Nah.
Like,
Don't call me Chicken Little in front of my people.
Then y'all just had the biggest cry.
We are having a moment and you come in here undermining
You
me.
can take a Chicken Little.
Calling me Chicken Little.
You can take a Chicken Little while you're already in your emotional. Yeah, you
undermining my authority.
Right.
I'm finally cool. I have friends now, Quentin.
Okay, but you also think you're a loser because you lost your magic. Like, so
there are people over here who are. It's
like Chicken
But
Little's
my
cute.
friends are.
It warms your heart to hear his voice calling you his pet name for you.
Are reassuring me that I'm not a loser because they love me.
They haven't gotten there yet because
Quentin is Elsie is now my sister, and I might miss your ass, and I might be happy that you're awake, but don't come in here calling me Chicken Little in public.
You're just gonna take whatever I call you.
The minute Jaden calls me Chicken Little, we fighting.
That's on y'all.
I love the sibling face off.
Perspective.
You elder siblings think that you could just do whatever you want and say whatever you want. No.
Yeah.
Who's gonna check his boots?
I'm gonna call my mama. Mama, Quinn was making
called me Chicken Little. Mama's like, Quinn's up.
She's like, forget that. He's awake. Like, you're
Mama,
not.
Quinn
It's
hit
not a
me.
winning game.
The first thing he did when he woke up was hit me. I'm a lie. He's been awake for 2 seconds. I'm lying on him to my mama because don't embarrass me.
That's your priority. First, this man just
his priority was to embarrass her.
I think that she's been waiting for him to call her Chicken Little. She doesn't find it embarrassing. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
Might be in the right, he might catch her in the right moment and she's gonna be like, sir.
Now, like, if she's in the middle of, like, again, trying to kill Dylan, and then he says Chicken Little, then perhaps she'll be annoyed.
Porshèa, that ship.
Oh, see, I was thinking about like a little quiet moment with her and Jaden, and then Quinn comes in like, "What's up, Chicken Little?" Like, bro, get out of my face.
I'm thinking she's like, "I'm trying to save the world, and here comes this man trying to cut my cells."
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm really now that we've talked about him being awake. I'm really interested to see what their dynamic is going to be like.
They're going to be partners too, and it's going to be awful.
Let's round this.
They got to go. They still got to go.
Yeah,
Maria.
I want to speculate. I want to speculate.
Okay, wait. So let's. Yeah.
Okay. So Quentin's awake. He calls her Chicken Little. Feelings are felt. The continuation of the cries and cutesies continues here.
I don't know. Jaden is like sobbing. I already know. Amari's too caught up in her own emotions.
Some allergies
like Bayana and Baltimore. Just
right, exactly. Damn.
It turns out that when like Amari's questioning how this happened, and Elsie is like, I think it was Dylan, because when you were doing that Dreamcatcher spell, his aura turned white, that he felt apologetic. And Amari thinks back and she's like, oh, right. He did whisper something. He must have been releasing the curse. So that makes Amari even more emotional. And Quentin admits that he heard most of the story while he was in bed. Because he was sitting there. It kind of gives like Kill Bill vibes when Homegirl was laid out on the bed and like had muscular atrophy because she hadn't been using her body for such a long time. So even though it felt like whenever Amari knocked him to his bed and he moved, that was him waking up, and it took him a while to actually get control of his body to where he could like manage to like get up and conversate with them. And so he's like admits that he heard everything, but he's now he's up. And then so Amari, hearing that he knows what happened to her, is like, I'm sorry that the first thing you had to hear was how much I screwed everything up, like basically still in her failure brain. And then Quentin says, sometimes things happen that are beyond our control. All you can do is decide how you're going to respond now. You're going to fight to fix things, or you're going to lie down and surrender. Because it looks like to me that you're surrounded by people who still very much believe in Amari Peters. And she looks at Jaden, who nods, and Elsie, who grins. And their faces tell her how true Quentin's words are. They do believe in her despite everything. So she takes the slow, deep breath, and she meets her brother's eyes. And then she sees the love in his eyes that makes her heart feel overflowing. So deeply emotional moment here. Ew, gross. He's been telling her that she can do anything her whole life. And she's like, who am I to say that they're wrong? So smiling through tears, she says, I say we fight. And that's the last word of The Great Game.
We did it.
I love it. It's such a good book.
It's such a good book.
He really did that. He ate that.
Look at how he ate that. No crumbs.
Speculation.
Yes.
What does the group look like now that Quentin's away?
I think
are we excited to see get
first? Well, I think they gotta go get Maria.
Maria, but also I think it depends on when the next book picks up.
Yeah,
because if it's immediately after, like, he's still not quite, like, he needs to heal some more. You know what I mean? So I think it partially depends on that. Or, you know, versus like if it's been a couple months or whatever and they've just been hiding underground for a little bit, then he's probably more like active. But I definitely think one of their first moves would be to find Maria. Or even if they can't, like, they might split up and maybe Quentin goes to find Maria. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or, I mean, because Quentin will have to also let Magnus
and you gotta get Lara
Fiona
too.
know. So I think it's probably getting Magnus and Fiona in to the group and then coming up with a okay, this group is going to get Maria, this group is going to go get Lara, and then we're going to come together. I think it's that, like, getting the whole group together and then coming up with a way to defeat Harlow, or at least stop the time freeze or something like that, because they're going to need, I'm assuming they're thinking that they're going to need Merlin to get Dylan.
But they can't stop the time freeze because they just tried that and Merlin was like, nah, because give that back.
And Harlow has definitely got safeguards watching out that
well, I'm saying they have to figure out they have to figure out some way of getting
Merlin.
Yeah, so like they have to stop the time freeze to get Merlin. Like they have to figure out some way to like defeat the race. Like the time freeze cannot just go on indefinitely.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like, I kind of feel like Harlow is
first and then
most immediate. See, no, I think Harlow is the most immediate big bad.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because if you can get control back over the Bureau, like, I think that de-escalates some stuff.
See,
sort of. It depends on then who's put in charge, though. So, like, I don't know. It's complicated.
Here's my thoughts. So if they start the story like immediately after where we just ended, they're still going to be in their apartment building, and there's no way they're not on the run. Like Harlow and whatever does not have people looking out for movement in Amari's place.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that we're gonna have to contend with. Is a lot of like at least a moment or two of them like on the run.
They gotta call the Sasquatches.
So that's gonna. I mean, and look, if the Sasquatch Mafia is real, let me tell you first of all,
we gotta hit
as soon as that comes up in the book, you're gonna hear me. I'm all the way in New York. The Sasquatch Mafia, because I'm like, yes, finally, I get to see the inner workings of the Sasquatch Mafia. But also, I think that's the thing that I would like to see them like have an on the run moment, not only for the Sasquatches, but like also I want to see where all the unwanteds who have been like creeping out, and I feel like that's like a thing that's been hanging about like since
that's how they stop the time freeze to get a bunch of unwanteds in there.
Maybe we'll see. So that's what I'm saying. So I think that's the thing that I would like to see, like that thread be pulled back on. Is like, where is everybody going? Like, are they going to Shrek Swamp? Like, is it the Sasquatch Swamp? Like, what are we doing? And And then the other thing, like when you were saying about the bureau control, I wonder, because it's like I feel like that's a thing that like is a common refrain in like general discussions about taking down the power. Like there's always there's always people who are like, we need to burn it all down and start afresh. So perhaps we don't need the bureau anymore. Perhaps this is a like power struggle over, are we trying to change the way that this whole supernatural world works, period. And the bureau being on fire is an implication of like it's everything's going to fall apart before anything can come back together, kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely think at the end of this, the bureau can't continue how it has been.
Yeah. We at least need Merlin to step in. Or some term limits. Some's got to give,
because he's.
I also think it's interesting that the World Congress Room is not in the bureau headquarters, so I think that actually leaves a lot of like, you know, room and space for that, like for them to leave that like time freeze up without having like the immediacy urgency of trying to get them out of that building. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I know like BB Alston works. He's a good author, so he has things that are like definitely there to get picked up on later. And I'm like, but which of these things are things that are going to get picked up on later, or just there to have like whimsy in the world? We don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Who's your MVP?
It's this little duo called Amari, and I think chapter what chapter are we on? 34. Amari saves Elsie. Chapter 35, Elsie saves Amari. Chapter 36, they become sisters and save each other. And the tugboat is just chugging along. And I have all of the feels. And Elsie became a dragon.
She did. She did do that.
Amari was aware of unseen dangers. It just wraps up so perfectly for them both to just be like MVP.
Word. I made Elsie my MVP. For finally becoming a dragon. Like she did her big one. Just like, you know, sacrificing herself for her friend, finally getting past that, like, you know, that block that she was having, and just like, yeah, being there for Amari the whole time. We know who Porshèa did not make her MVP, but still,
did she
who
bitch her?
did you make your MVP? No.
I didn't have the, you know, there's no way I was gonna make either of them my MVP, because no, you had the higher ground. You could have taken a shot. And you could have taken a shot, bro. I just
so
what is it that Michael Scott says about like you lose whatever you lose whatever shots you don't take with something, you lose
100% of the shots you don't take, but it's somebody else's quote and he attributed it to himself.
He attributes it to himself. Yeah, that's exactly what happened here. You lose 100% of the shots you don't take.
I was about to say, why is that shot? Very known quote? Why are you talking about Michael Scott? No, just not why is it relevant, but like, why are you talking about Michael Scott? I get it.
No, because it's funny. Because Michael, I'm like, I'm going to contribute to the Michael Scott.
He didn't even steal the quote. He included the attribution in his quote, as if he's quoting
the quote. I gotcha.
It's
That's the only thing from that's honestly one of the most random. Like I know so much about Parks and Rec as things references. The Office is not so much because I only watched it 3 once. But yes. So that's how I feel about them. So that's why they would not be MVP. But also, you know, you don't have it in me to make them to bench them either. So they're safe there. However, Quentin is the MVP for me because he literally came in like an MVP out of nowhere,
insulting the hero,
holding it down.
That was not.
That's your purview. That's a you problem.
Embarrassing the hero.
That's a you problem because at no point did Amari say anything about being embarrassed. She was loving that. She was drinking it all in. She loved it. I love that he really was legit in a coma, had not been communicative to people for a while because they had not allowed Maria to be in the same room with him where he could communicate with people. So he's been out of touch with people for a good minute. And the first thing he's hearing upon waking up is Amari like talking down on herself despite all the crap that she's gone through. And his immediate priority is to make sure that she's okay. And I'm like, there's so many like siblings who would be like, you know, I even me, because I can't be a Debbie Downer. I'd be like, you know what? Things do look bleak. And I'm not gonna lie to you. We gotta figure this out because it's not looking good, bro. But you know, we can figure it out. Like, you know, you don't
He
have
gave
that
a good
inspirational speech in you,
he
but
gave a very good like team
he gave
captain
a good
speech.
team,
It's
right.
giving
He did not
sports.
dwell on any
It's
of the
giving Carl
he did not dwell
Lawson.
on any of the
Yeah.
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 He didn't dwell on any of the lowlights. He didn't dwell on the challenge.
No.
He was like, let's not even worry about that right now. Let's worry about you feeling good about yourself.
It was a Captain
And that's
America
real
moment.
MVP behavior.
The speeches
That
where
was
you're
real
like,
MVP
oh, okay.
behavior.
We can do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Hope it's not lost.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And you know what? Amari's not the only one who needed that speech. Like, so did Elsie and Jaden, but so did everyone reading this book because it looks pretty bleak. So thank you, Quentin, for picking up the morale for us in this book on some very, very like scary stuff.
Yeah.
Porshèa said, I'm not gonna lie to you. I needed that myself.
I mean, it's real. It's definitely, I don't know how they're gonna get out of this. But I think it also, like, just before we get into Benched, I think it also makes sense because this whole time reading this book, it's like, how, like, there's no way Amari can solve this problem by herself or just like maybe even at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, this is clearly too much for one person, let alone one,
was
like,
already too much to ask of her.
Right. It was like, it's too much to ask of even if you were an adult, that's a lot to ask of a person. And so she's being pulled on all like sides. And she tries her best, but I think it also is very realistic for that to not be enough because there's a lot going on and these people are nefarious, you know? They're doing a lot. Anyway, speaking of them, who's benched?
I think
we're
unanimous. I wanted to add to my prediction real quick when you were talking. I was like, ooh, not to bring up the Wizard Boy, but I do think that a lot of like their first stuff is going to actually be like guerrilla warfare. Yeah. Of like Harlow's going to just be pumping out lies and propaganda and they're going to have to like convince the supernatural world of what's really going on. Cause like, I did think about that. Like, actually, no one really knows
what's happening. But that's why I was saying, I think they have to go after Harlow first. Like, it's like Harlow, I mean, not Dylan is like definitely a threat and the other magicians, like, but they're probably going to be much more like in your face.
Yeah.
Whereas like Harlow is much better at just like
crafting the narrative.
And she could control
from the shadows.
You know what I mean? So it just is like, I feel like she's the bigger threat right now.
Here's my thought on what, as you said that, I'm like, what is the solution to broadcasting the situation to the world? There are literally cameras in the World Congress like that. Like, this may have happened in the hallway, but there might have been cameras there about what happened. So here's my thought is perhaps Amari's able to persuade Dylan to use, because it worked in his favor if people are on the side of like the Harlow's a problem. She's going against the unwanted and like an alliance is made where she has Dylan tech craft his way to get the video that he needs and broadcast it on Erg so that Harlow is found out.
What if we formed
But yeah, benched. We also have Harlow and Cosmo.
Yeah.
Basically, the adults, the grown people in this story.
One thing that I don't think we really touched on a lot with Cosmo too is like, yeah, he was when she was doing the calamity spell. I feel like that's a level of combat, I guess it's a better way to say it, because he was like, y'all gotta fight, you know what I mean, or like do whatever, that he understood, so he was letting her rock. But the minute in which she decided to fight back with her heart or whatever and take those memories away from Dylan, like, she was still fighting. She was still winning. And who knows what the outcome would have been if she was able to, like, kind of change Dylan's mind or erase some of those bad memories and get. And
Cosmo basically Thanos
he
her.
did Thanos her, but he
Like,
also, like,
with a time stone, like,
yeah.
Yeah.
and she's a Scarlet Witch.
But also,
Yeah.
like, I forget what we were talking about. It might have been Legendborn, but, like, of, like, not being able to see an alternative method, right? So, like, I might actually, I think it might have been, because she knows the foul spell, and you know that foul spells are what you're supposed to use to, like, use combat, like, you don't think about the ways in which you could use a fair spell in combat, right? And to, like, and get to your aims without actually doing, like, the bad thing. And I think that, like, he got in the way of her actually using fair magic to meet her goals and to win. And so I just wanted to, like, add that special, like, sit down, because, like, she was winning, but she wasn't winning in the ways in which he wanted to see. And so he interfered, which is against the rules of the game.
First of all,
I just feel like there's something crafty about Cosmo that, like, there's maybe more than meets the eye. That I'm not giving him any sort of benefit of the doubt. That's why he's benched. I wish I would have benched him more throughout the story. I wish there was more times to have benched him, because I think he really, like, deserves to, like, be on the, like, the season bitch. We'll see if, like, that changes. There's something about the way that he interacted with Amari. Like, he could, if he really was that guy who and callous and did, like, thought that, like, if you don't win, you're a loser kind of thing, then he would have just left her there stranded with nothing. You know what I mean? Like, he really would have did that. So I feel like there's a little bit more than meets the eye with him. So it's interesting to me, and I'm interested in where that goes. With Harlow, we were talking about how she controls the narrative and she can control people for what it seems like, for as far as we know so far, in her immediate vicinity. So what's interesting to me about Harlow's powers is that she doesn't really have to build a movement. She doesn't really have to, like, try to find supporters, build up support the way that, like, Amari and her group has to. She seriously just has to be able to, like, control the people in her immediate vicinity to get whatever quest or item she needs done. And as long as that gets checked off her list of things, she's winning. So it really comes down to how far out does she strategize around her control of people, and what long lasting effects can she make with a limited amount of time to control a person at a time. How long will that range go? So that's what interests me about Harlow, because she's playing the long game with, like, short range weapons, and that's interesting. And I feel like Amari's playing the, like, losing game where she has to kind of, like, get people on her side, but it takes longer to get people to be on your side, you know?
The long game with short range weapons is a bar, but also hilarious to think about.
The imagery in your head are like, enemy stop!
Yeah. Well, wow, we did it. We did it. Mama, we made it. Thank you for listening. Join us next week when we wrap up our discussion of Amari and the Great Game. And do not forget to vote for your MVP and bench. You have until April 5th to get your votes in. You also make Bayana the MVP for this episode because her birthday is April 1st.
So by the time you hear this, which will be like April 3rd, this is your birthday present will be having
or at least putting your votes in.
Yeah, actually, I think she would actually prefer that.
For Bayana's birthday, she wants you to put your votes in. Give her spreadsheet dreams.
Make her wishes come true. You too can help a 30-year-old
feel satisfaction, you know? Such an adult thing to find,
you know
find fun.
Celebratory, you know. So Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. You may also follow us on Instagram and Tumblr. We are at Wizard Team Pod and Black Nerds Create on both of those platforms.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.